Shannon, would you mind saying something so we can make sure that we can hear you on our end?
Thank you. Yes, I'm talking right now.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make a quick announcement before we open the meeting, but if anybody is wishing to speak, there are some forms to fill out. And I think Rachel will help you with those. So if you do, please raise your hand or please go out to the table and pick out a form. I do have a couple that will be coming up. And it is now 6:01. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Randy or Rachel, can you denote roll call? And show that we have Justin, Mike, and Lisa absent. Oh, we do still have a quorum.
Correct.
A pledge of allegiance. Colleen, can I ask you to lead the pledge? Thank you. Next item is the approval of the minutes. We have one in front of us, the March 25th, 2025. Is there a motion or discussion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Doug, seconded by Jean. Any notes or changes? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item number 4 is appearances before the commission. So again, anybody wishing to speak, you have this opportunity. We do have some public hearings coming up, and I suspect most everybody in the room is here for those public hearings. And with that, I will move on to item 5. I guess I should check. Yep, sorry. I wanted to check the 2 people that are wishing to speak are for a public hearing. So item 5.1 is a public hearing on a request to rezone 3.8 acres between Columbia Avenue, North Cleveland Avenue, East Holm Street, and Washington Street, former Holm Education Area site. It's from the RM6 Residential Mixed Traditional Housing District to the PUD Planned Unit Development District, and to consider a PUD preliminary development plan to facilitate a proposed duplex senior and multifamily residential development. So I open that public hearing at 6:04. And what we're going to do is start off with a bit of a presentation in that public hearing to hopefully answer some questions. Mark, I think you're going to start.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm the village's planner. And I'm going to just frame the proposal, and I would encourage the development team to come up to the table over the next minute or two, and they'll present their proposal in detail. But what we have here before you is probably 4 or 5 years in the making. It started with the school district's decision to relocate its administrative offices away from the Holm Center to the middle school building, and their decision to sell that property for redevelopment. We have a potential buyer that's proposing a development proposal, and that you'll hear from them in just a moment. We've got a multi-step process to go through to get from where we are now to actually developing the site. The 2 big steps are tonight, this public hearing and recommendation from the Plan Commission that would, if ultimately supported by the village board after tonight, would rezone the property to entitle the development to be constructed in general accordance with the plans you'll hear presented in a moment. After that step is done, there's a so-called final development plan step. That means this development team would come back to the Plan Commission with the nitty-gritty details of what they're going to build, from building materials to exactly which tree is going to be planted where and so forth. Before this meeting, the development team did arrange a neighborhood meeting. That was an optional, but encouraged opportunity for the team to prepare and share their proposal with neighbors. And that was conducted last week. But this is the formal sort of public hearing, and the village has notified all the neighbors around this development proposal of that hearing. I think with that, I'll have the development team present their proposal. I know we have the site plan and really everything in your PDP available for display to kind of support your presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mark. So just to introduce the development team, we are JT Klein Company. We're a small shop. You're looking at the entire team here. We're based out of Madison. All of us grew up in the Dane County area, so we're very familiar with how the county and villages have grown throughout the years, and have seen firsthand that, you know, with the population increase, there's also been a big need for housing, and our specialty is multifamily housing. We do workforce, senior, and market rate housing, and that's kind of all three what we're proposing here today. Well, what you have on the screen here is our proposed development. It can be. I'm
sorry to interrupt, but could you please state your name and address for the record?
Oh, yeah. Danny Afabli, JT Klein, 818 South Park Street, Madison, Wisconsin. So as you can see on your screen here, we can probably break our project into three phases here. On the left side of the screen is a U-shaped building. This is a 60-unit senior affordable building that is 2 stories tall above an underground garage. And by affordable, this will be aiming at residents making between 30 and 80% of the area median income. And that equates to about $33,000 to $106,000 annually, depending on the household size. And that'll have, like I said, parking underneath as well as surface parking. It's going to be close to, I believe, 1.35 parking stalls per unit. The next building in this project is going to be kind of in the top right side of the screen. That building is a 24-unit building, again, 2 stories above an underground garage. This one could be a workforce building or a market rate building. It'll be 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, and it'll have parking underneath as well as that surface lot just to the left there. And then the final phase here is going to be the 4 duplex buildings just to the south of that. This will be 4 duplexes, 8 total units built on 0 lot lines, and each of these buildings will have its own 2-car garage. One other thing to point out on this site, it's, as everyone knows, we love the location. It's just down the street from here. It's also an interesting site because it's got an existing vacant building on it. This building was built pre-70s, so there is some hazardous material that will need to be demoed and safely disposed of. And then additionally, it's got a pretty interesting topography coming down from the north to the south. It is roughly 25 feet of grade change. And that's kind of how this site is laid out to accommodate that. And that's also what was in the future land use and redevelopment plan that was put together by the village. I believe Vierbecker put that together. And this was kind of our guiding principle as we designed this site. It was one of the best uses identified in there was high density residential. And this comes out to within that at, I believe, about 24 units per acre there. And as we continue through, we'll continue designing, utilizing all the staff recommendations. Some things that we've already factored in are potential stormwater catch basins, designing that private drive so that EMS and fire can pass through it. There is an existing snow removal easement that we're working with the village to remove. And that's why you kind of see that pass through from the alley on the far right side of the screen. That was a recommendation by the village planning department to continue that so that a snowplow could pass through. And the reason why we're here today is we are proposing a PUD. We think that that would be the best use for this rezoning. We analyzed a lot of the traditional zoning codes. The RM4, RM5 are about as close as we can get. However, to get the density, setbacks, some lot size and parking variances, we would need to move to a PUD in order to accommodate the development that you see here.
Excuse me, we gotta take questions at a different time. Or again, please fill out the paperwork. Sorry to interrupt, but.
Yeah. Not a problem. PUD being planned unit development, rezoning. So with that being said, I would welcome any questions, comments that we can answer here today.
Thank you. We are in the public hearing, so I think we'll keep the questions to a minimum, but is there anything?
As you guys sort of retreat for at least temporarily so people can come up and take your spot if needed, I'll just say that one of the things I did want to mention is that, and some of the people here in the room might remember this, but a couple of years ago, we had a public process to get neighborhood impact input and prepare a redevelopment plan for the entire downtown central part of the village. And this was identified as a priority site for redevelopment. Obviously, this school use was gone or going very quickly. And the goal was to provide a neighborhood and community contributing redevelopment opportunity to address the housing shortage in this area and put this site to a long-term new productive use. And this isn't the plan exactly that was put forward. You can see it, it's available online, but what they have brought forward is certainly reminiscent and within the guidelines, in my opinion, of that redevelopment plan that the village adopted about 2 years ago. So with that, I'll certainly be available for comments after the public hearing.
Thank you guys very much. Again, we have two people that wish to speak. Looks like it's Jane, is it Sattler? And then after her is Mimi Healy or Hiley. Thank you. So Jane, if you could come up and state your name and address. Again, if there's anybody else wishing to speak, please fill out a form. Thank you, Jane. There is a green button. Yep. And I.
Okay, and those,
We try to keep our comments to about 3.
right, okay. Ooh. Well, my name is Jane Sattler. I live at 444 Columbia Avenue. And that would be on the video or the diagram that you showed us, it would be across from the senior entrance is where I live. And I have a combination of questions and comments. My view on this generally is that you're putting, you're building an area here that may very well decrease our property values. And the city has already done a couple of things that decreased my property value, as I was told by the real estate agent, having a brightly painted water tower and the cell phone tower. That decreased the value of my home by about $50,000. And now I'll be having an area across my street that at the least will be causing traffic in my area. I noticed that you have an entrance along Warwick. I can't tell from the, well, you know, your clock, there we go. I can't tell what other entrances you have. I don't see anything on Holum. Where are the other entrances? Okay, so where you have a more circular area, there is an entrance and down there. And then, so you have that. And none on the side streets. Okay. And can you tell me how many people will be living, how many apartments or how many expected occupants for all of the different areas there?
If I could maybe pause, if you can just list the questions, because this 3 minutes is for you to really input as much as you can. I'll write down the
Okay,
questions.
well then I'll
I
just
can, and we'll give you.
have
the
to just
answers.
make my comments a little more general then. So my main point is that I feel that the city is duty bound to do well by the citizens in this neighborhood. And ways that I can think of that you would do that would be limit the amount of traffic on our streets, the number of entrances, make an attractive buildings, and well, I don't know what else. I guess I hate to say this because it sounds so catty, but I'm wondering, so I did not get an answer to how many occupants are in these areas. How many occupants are in the low-income apartment area?
We'll get you answers to your questions. Feel free to keep asking them and anyone else who wants to speak, but if we waste all your
Okay.
time
All right,
with
that's
me
it.
answering
That's
that.
it then. That's it.
Yeah.
And when you have a meeting of importance like this, the way to let the interested parties know is by something in the mail, just like you did this time. Because I did not get something in the mail for your previous meeting. And that's where I imagine you, discuss some of these questions I have. So maybe we can get more information, okay?
Thank you, Jane. Mimi? And please state your name and address for the record.
It's Mimi Hilly, 440 Columbia Avenue.
Thank you.
I live on Columbia Avenue near the corner of Washington and Columbia, so the senior housing would be in front of my house that I have owned for 9 years. When I bought it, the school district was still functioning. We had hoped that the school district would do something with the building or perhaps the village. I did review the plans set forth by the village several years ago. There were 2 plans, which I felt were very much in keeping with the area. It is a quiet neighborhood. It's peaceful. We don't have a lot of traffic except at school time. And this plan does not do that. This puts anywhere from 100 to 150 units. I don't know what that equates to people in one block. And it will totally change the neighborhood. Our neighborhood isn't the fanciest neighborhood, and maybe you feel like you can do something there because of that. But I own a home that I could sell tomorrow for $500,000. And I hate to sound arrogant, and I don't mean this to come off this way, but you have fancy names for some of this housing, workforce. I'd like to call it what it is, which is low-income housing, and it does not help our property value. And I dare say that people in some of the more high-end neighborhoods would tolerate it being put in theirs. I do think something needs to be done with the property. I'd love to see something nice. I thought the 2 plans set forth by the village were very nice with townhomes, green space, something very much in keeping with the neighborhood. One thing I meant to mention at the beginning, there was a community meeting apparently on Wednesday that none of us knew about. And I hear that there were 2 people there, and I think that is probably because no one knew about it. I did get the notice from you all for this meeting, and I appreciate that. I only knew about this plan when I got the village notice and looked on the website for something about what was going on across the street. Partly prompted by the bulldozers that were in front of my house yesterday. I don't have much else to say except that I don't think that this plan is in keeping with what you all have tried to do. When I moved here, we had the old Fireman's Park. I think the village has done a fantastic job of trying to revitalize the town. make it nicer. I wish more people would move into Holm Street homes, fix them up. They do that in a lot of places. I grew up in a historic town where people would go buy houses that were in horrible condition and revitalize them. And that's what we hoped when we moved to DeForest. And I think the village has done a really nice job in a lot of areas. And I don't think that this development is in keeping with that. I am sympathetic to those who need assistance. The thought of a senior housing, I'm sorry, I'm out of time. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think they would be noisy. But this layout and plan is just not in keeping with the neighborhood. And I would ask that you all reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. So I'll ask one more time. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:21 and move to item,
You might want to just make sure there's.
oh, sorry.
Line that,
Yep, if there is anybody online, you'll be muted. So if you're wishing to speak, you'll have to raise your hand and then we'll unmute you. Okay. I do not see anybody yet. If you're still struggling to raise your hand, please do so, but I'm going to move on to item 5.2. Discussion and recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 3.8 acres between Columbia Avenue, North Cleveland Avenue, East Holm Street, and Washington Street, formerly the Holm Education Area Site, from the RM6 Residential Mixed Traditional Housing District to the PUD Planned Unit Development District, and to consider a PUD preliminary development plan to facilitate a proposed duplex, senior, and multifamily residential development.
oh, someone do that.
Mark, I guess, do you want to try to answer the questions? I've got a few of them written here before we
Sure.
set up the commissioners.
Yes, I can try to answer some of the questions. And then I would encourage the development team to be prepared to respond to some of the questions as well. The concern or question about property values, particularly north of Columbia Avenue, there's been no statistical study, to my knowledge, of property value impacts. I will suggest that a range of different options, and I'll talk about the redevelopment plan in a second, a range of different options have been explored for redevelopment of this site. All the way from a park, spoiler alert, no one has money for a park, and to single family housing, to frankly reuse of the building for storage or other kind of uses that it might be suitable for and might be market feasible. The reality is we have a large site in downtown. I was going to say you can see it. I think you might be able to see a tree or two from this window. It's very close. The idea being that it creates additional value to the neighborhood is definitely part of this, and definitely not a part of diminishing value. In addition to what we see here tonight, there will be detailed plans that show these buildings. They're 2-story buildings at most. There might be 3-story exposure on the south side of the senior building because the site falls away considerably from the north to the south. But on Columbia, it'll be a 2-story appearance. The 24-unit building, very hard to pick out here, but in concept, it's shown to have a townhouse style look from Columbia Avenue with individual entrances to at least the first floor units in that orientation or that direction. The 24-unit building is designed in such a way in concept where you see walkways coming from the north end of it to the Columbia Avenue sidewalk. So the concept is to have a townhouse style appearance, 2-story building facing that direction. I'll let the applicants talk a little bit more about tenant base and likely rent levels, because I think you'd be surprised how much the rents are going to be here. So I would like the applicants to be prepared to talk about likely rent ranges. The other comment was how many units, how many people, how much traffic. There are, in this concept plan, 92 units. That equals 24 units per acre, which is within the range allowed by the village's comprehensive plan, redevelopment plan for this site. How many people would come out of that obviously depends on how many people live in each unit, but especially with the senior units as a component, I would be surprised if there were no more on average than 2 persons per unit. So if you want to use a rule of thumb, 180 units 180 people would probably be the maximum. They would generate traffic. This is on a collector street, Holum Avenue within the village, and other streets that bound it that are designed to accommodate the level of traffic that you might expect. As you can imagine, the senior development will not generate a lot of traffic. Many seniors don't have cars, or if they do, they'll have 1 car per household, not the 2, 3 plus that many folks in single family homes do have. And the other thing I'll point out too is in terms of traffic routing that I think is of note is while there are 3 proposed accesses to Columbia Avenue, that's really to get to sort of the platform, the top part of the development. One of those accesses is for a small parking lot for the senior development. I would anticipate most of that will be used by visitors and employees there. The second parking lot as you head to the east is a 6-space parking lot designed to minimize the amount of on-street parking generated by this development, generally associated with that 24-unit building that you see to the right. And then the other thing you see off of the east end of both that 24-unit building and the southeast end of the senior building is a little walkway that seems to run right into or driveway that seems to run right into those buildings. Those are the access ways to the underbuilding parking where most residents will park. And those access ways and sort of the path of travel for many people, my guess, will be down to get to Holum and to turn left to get to 51 or to turn right to get to downtown or the interstate. So and they're sort of oriented in that direction. So I would anticipate that most traffic will not be using Columbia, but instead will be using that Holum entrance and exit to get to and from the housing within the development. There was a concern about the appearance of buildings. We don't have a ton on appearance within this preliminary development plan stage. The general idea is with this 2-stage process, preliminary plan, then final plan, is that whoever's applying for a development like this gets a general okie dokie to move forward, and then they prepare detailed engineering, architectural, landscape, and other plans to ensure high quality. I can't really comment on who was invited or not invited to the neighborhood meeting. Maybe the developers can comment on that too. It was an optional meeting. It's not specified or required by ordinance. It was intended to encourage interaction outside of a kind of fancy meeting like this, where there's fewer rules. So I don't know what to say about notice or not notice. It wasn't the village's meeting. It was the developer's meeting to hold. We did encourage them to hold it, but it's not a requirement that they had to meet. In terms of the development plan, could I have that again? We did include in the packet that people can certainly inspect as they want. copies or pages from the redevelopment plan. Oh, I'm gonna have to struggle to find it now. Where do I need to go to get other documents here? Right there. I think it's in there. So included in the packet was a report that I put together analyzing the proposal on behalf of the village. It has some qualitative standards for new housing that will be applied to this project and the applicants are aware of. It includes also guidelines for siting developments of these types, which include, locating them within neighborhoods and mixed use settings versus tucking them away in the corner of the village and hoping things end up okay. Ensuring enough roads to serve them and selecting sites with good visibility from the public and good access to services. And I can't think of a site that has better access to services than this one. There's a lot of talk about in the redevelopment plan of why can't we just reuse the building? A lot of reasons why that is really not practical. And then as one of the speakers commented, there were, in addition to some guidelines for development of the site, there were two options that were put forward in the plan. Back out a little bit here. This was one of the options and probably the one that most resembles what they're proposing. And this, again, this is not their proposal. This is a concept that was included in the village's plan. It suggested a larger building towards the northwest part of the site. I think 2 stories facing Columbia Avenue, maybe 3 stories to the south, under building parking and, in this case, a larger parking lot. We didn't presume or know whether this would be senior housing or general housing. Senior housing requires less parking, so that's great. And we have less parking in the concept, or less parking in what you have before you. This plan also had, as you kind of transition to the single family homes that are on the east side of this block, a thought or a suggestion of townhouse style development in 4-unit and 3-unit form, but that could change certainly as well. So you can absolutely see differences in the access plan. The density in this plan and the density of the development, I guess it all hinges on how many units were in this concept. But as I mentioned earlier, what they're proposing is within the maximum density range within the village's plans. So it's certainly a matter of opinion as to whether what they're proposing is consistent with this or not. This was never intended to be a mandate for how new development would look, but it was intended to inspire ideas that a private development team could take forward and figure out what was practical and marketable within the outer bounds of the plan. So I think with that, I'll close my comments for now. When the commission, I'm happy to answer questions. When the commission is ready, we do have a potential set of approval conditions or recommended conditions that we can walk through as the time warrants. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. I do want to say there is a question of what is a PUD, and it is a planned unit development. I don't know, Mark, please correct me if I say anything wrong, but we have a number of different zoning districts, and there's a lot of, say, restrictions also, as far as like zoning, as far as the square footage of the lots and the setbacks and things like that. And it's hard to fit that on a lot of locations. So the PUD tends to be a district that people will zone to allow developments like this.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing I would say is, and what it provides, I think, for the neighborhood and the village in this case, is comfort that what you see is what you're going to get. With standard zoning districts, if the village were to rezone it to the standard multiple family housing district, they could certainly follow through on the proposal they have in mind, but they would be under no obligation to do so. With planned unit development zoning, the developer will be obligated to build what they propose and only what they propose, unless and until they were to come back and we'd start this process all over again.
Good point. And they present to the site plan as part of the approval process too. Okay. I think that's all the questions that I had written down. Any commissioners had other questions that you caught? Okay, I will open it up for the commissioners for comments. Go ahead, Colleen.
I would just like to make sure that we differentiate between low-income housing and what we're calling workforce housing.
Yep. I wonder if the applicants could come forward. I know, Mark, you mentioned how it might be good to understand the incomes that are being presented.
Yeah, happy to chime in on that. I think to help paint the picture of what kind of people and demographics will be living in this, our one bedrooms probably range from $1,250 to $1,650 a month for rent. Two bedrooms range anywhere from $1,450 to $2,000 a month for rent. And the income ranges vary widely depending on the AMI designation, but it could be anywhere from $33,000 a year to $107,000 a year. And, you know, the type of people that are living there, these are people that are living in your community. These are teachers, they're working in your grocery stores, they're at your banks. You can define whatever the income type you want, but people in this building are probably going to be making a household income of over $100,000. So, and I mean, in the senior building, we have plenty of veterans that are living off of their Social Security checks. So these are members of the community that want to remain in the community. And as prices of houses go up to $500,000, these are people that aren't going to be able to afford that.
Okay, thank you. Colleen, you still have the floor. Anything else?
No, I just wanted to make sure that that was made clear what that was all about. And that's all based on the percentage of income in Dane County.
Yes, that's correct.
I was one of those people. I had a job I really liked, but it didn't pay a heck of a lot. So this would have been nice. And I'm a good person.
And that compares with market rents. And so if this was a market rent, if these were market rent apartments, what would the rents likely be?
They would probably be on the higher end of the range that I listed, but they're pretty close to the market rents. And farther in our presentation, we build all of our products very nicely. They're the inside of our buildings. You probably wouldn't be able to tell if it was a market rate or a workforce building. It's all very high-end products for the rental demographics.
Okay, thank you. Colleen, anything else? Other commissioners? Okay, so in front of us, or the proposed action was in our packet. Could you maybe scroll to that?
Yes. Yeah. So what's being requested of the commission is a recommendation to the board. That recommendation would be, if you see fit, to recommend that the board approve this draft ordinance that's in your packet. That draft ordinance, if approved by the village board, would approve the rezoning to planned unit development. But noteworthy, it wouldn't take effect until they get a final development plan approved by you guys. So they have to follow through on the whole process. The second and larger part of the ordinance relates to some suggested changes to the preliminary development plan. That was the longer text and graphic document that was in your packet to basically clarify some minor inconsistencies that I observed. That was the main thing. We did have fire and EMS review this proposal. A few of the comments relate to continuing to involve those folks in the process as the detailed plans go forward. And then, as I mentioned, the second phase will be this final development plan, or FDP. And this just enumerates the items that need to be covered in those detailed plans that come forward. There's a long list already in the zoning ordinance of what they need to submit. I added to that long list here. The village engineer is reviewed as well. Those final plans would have to address his comments as well as fire department comments for adequate access and service. Some other comments on parking and access, making sure these access ways to the public streets are safe. There are some lovely trees on the property, particularly on the south west corner. Preparing a final inventory of those trees and trying to preserve as many as are practical, given a professional assessment of their health. And then there's a whole litany of sort of technical jargon related to justification for PUD zoning that would be in the conditions. And other things related to ongoing shared access, maintenance, and other issues to make sure that this is a quality project, not only on day one, but on day 8,001.
Mark, could you state for the room and as a reminder, what is the next steps as far as process? I think you said already this resolution will go to the village board. That will likely happen the next meeting or maybe the meeting after. Do we know that?
Yeah, I don't see any reason it couldn't happen at the next meeting, which is the 6th of May at 6 p.m. in the same room.
And then after that, if it's approved, we would have the final development plan come to planning and zoning.
That's correct. So that would be a public meeting. That is not a public hearing. So there's no, you guys have had opportunities and there are opportunities for appearances for the commission so people can weigh in on that. But there wouldn't necessarily be another neighbor notice in advance of that.
And generally, if we get to the final development plan, it ends at planning and zoning.
That's right. So unlike this preliminary development plan rezoning step that we're in right now, the final word for whether a final development plan is approved stops at the Planning and Zoning Commission, this body here.
So we are talking at least 2 other opportunities for the public to comment.
Correct. And I don't know what the developer schedule is, but it's going to take them a little while to get to the detailed plans. So if you don't hear about anything happening in May or even June, don't think it's already happened because it could take a few months for all those details to be put together.
Thank you, Mark. I do have another question, and this is a question for Mimi, if I could. Could you come up to the mic, please? I'm curious how you said that you reviewed the 2 concept plans that the village had put forward approximately a year ago, and you seem to like those concept plans, but this one you don't.
The
And I'm
one with the
wondering what you
townhomes and the
see
green
as
space.
the green
There was a
space and the
different plan,
townhomes.
that one.
Okay,
It's more residential. It's a residential neighborhood with homes,
okay.
not buildings. Well, I mean, we've had the school district, but it's pretty normal to have a school in the neighborhood. We have Eagle Point right down the road. We don't have apartment buildings in the neighborhood. We have single-family homes.
Yeah.
That the second plan was what I was speaking of.
Okay.
Can I ask one question I failed to ask? If this gets approved, when are they planning to start building
Okay,
generally? General timeline?
thank you, Mimi. So little out of order, but I guess could we answer that, or does the developer know at this time?
I believe that
There was a.
there's a
schedule.
phasing plan and schedule in here. So just broadly, so if you want to come up, you'll be your better answer than me, but the phasing plan, I had it up on screen and then I zoomed in and it screwed everything up, but start with the seniors and basically continue to work on the site from there to the 24 unit building than to the duplexes, but Danny, do you have a schedule?
Yeah, you're spot on, Mark. So as far as starting construction, as you outlined a little bit before, we've got a long ways to go on that. I think spring of 26 would probably be the earliest. We'd be looking to break ground. There's a lot that needs to happen between now and then, so the schedule can fluctuate up or down, depending on a lot of variables. And then as far as actual construction on the site, what you kind of see on your screen here, it's divided into 3 phases. We'd probably try and start each phase one after the other within 3 or 4 months to maximize construction efficiencies.
Okay. Thank you. Colleen?
Can you explain, I think the residents are probably quite curious about that, why this is not single-family homes?
It's a good question. There's a lot of different variables that go into that. As I kind of alluded to earlier in the presentation, there's a significant demolition and abatement cost. The cost of the land, it really just isn't financially feasible to buy a parcel like this and build single-family homes on the lot to make the project go forward.
And for whatever the residents are seeing up there now, I know there's like a bulldozer and there was some other maybe crane type structure that I had seen up there. That's related to what's underground there, and you're trying to figure out just what is underground
Yeah,
there?
exactly. That is soil borings and test pits. They dig 30 to 40 feet into the ground in various areas to see how good the soil quality is. We had some backhoes out there because on kind of where the senior building is, there was a fire that burnt a school down, and the school district decided to push the building in on itself. So it's still there. So we're essentially trying to find where the footprint of the previously burnt down building is, along with some other things. I mean, Wisconsin has all sorts of different soil conditions that may need to be hauled out and brought in fresh soil so that it meets engineering standards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Anybody else? Questions, comments, or there's also the resolution in front of us? Go ahead.
I will make the motion to recommend to the village board that this be approved as written. The ordinance approving the rezoning and planned unit development, preliminary development plan for redevelopment of the former Holm Education site.
Thank you, Colleen. So there's motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jean. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you all for your input, and we look forward to more of your input. Item number 5.3 is a public hearing on a proposed amendment to a future land use map in the Village of DeForest Comprehensive Plan, redesignating from future shopping and services to mix or flex commercial/residential and environmental corridor uses on 3.4 acres in the west side of parcel denoted on the agenda, the northwest of the intersection of Delmore Road and Tierney Crossing. I'm going to open that public hearing, I think at the same time as the next public hearing, which is 5.4, a public hearing on the request to rezone approximately 3.4 acres on the west side of a parcel denoted on the agenda from the B2 General Business District to a combination of C1 Conservancy, PUD Planned Unit Development Districts, and to consider a PUD Preliminary Development Plan to facilitate a proposed single-family residential development, Bollig addition to Yahara Gateway, and an associated storm basin northwest of the intersection of Delmore Road and Tierney Crossing. I'm opening those two public hearings at 6:50. And Mark, do you want to open?
I'll be real brief here.
Thank you, Brandy. It sounds like did you ask them to step out just so we couldn't hear them? Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
We have 4 agenda items to cover 12 lots. That's 3 lots per agenda item. It's way too much stuff for a relatively modest proposal. This is a proposal to develop off of the west side of the Tierney Crossing extension, 12 single-family homes off of private lanes, 2 private lanes. The Commission's familiar with this area because just to the northeast, you all approved a 320-ish unit development for Continental Properties called the Springs at DeForest not long ago. So north in this map is to the right. The Springs at DeForest begins right around here to get you some context. And Quick Trip not really a great geographic indicator. One of the Quick Trips in town is right down here. So as I mentioned, this is a proposal to develop 12 single-family lots off of 2 private courts. The developer has successfully developed this concept in Waunakee. Part of the reason the courts are as they are with dead ends is that the lands to the west or the top of the map is all Dane County property, natural area associated with the Yahara River and Zone C1 Conservancy work. So we're not going to see roads extending any further than they do right here, right now. You've got on your agenda one hearing that covered a comprehensive plan amendment. I will say that that's a conservative approach on my part to make sure that the development's 100% consistent with the comprehensive plan. I view it as a very minor comprehensive plan amendment. But be that as it may, there's a public hearing and a resolution later on your agenda to recommend that plan amendment. The main thing before you tonight, actually 2 things, is a preliminary development plan for, once again, plan unit development zoning, and a preliminary plat, which is what you see up on screen here now, that would divide this land. Going forward, we would expect to see at a subsequent meeting a final development plan and a final plat with additional details and engineering and other matters. I'll be happy to answer more questions and get into more detail after the hearings.
Thank you, Mark. Is there anybody wishing to speak during the public hearing? Again, Brandy or Rachel, can you check the online? Okay. Thank you, Mike. We will close the public hearing at 6:54 and go to item number 5.5. Action on a resolution recommending the proposed amendment to the future land use map in the Village of DeForest Comprehensive Plan, redesignating from future shopping and services to mix or flex commercial, residential, and environmental corridor. Uses on 3.4 acres on the west side of parcel denoted on the agenda, northwest of the intersection of Delmore Road and Tierney Crossing. Again, this item is about the proposed future land use map.
Yeah, which I have up on screen right now. A couple of months ago, maybe several months ago now, the commission recommended and the board approved a change to accommodate the Continental proposal. That's the area in blue. Their proposal extended further north, of course, but that was the area that needed to change for the rezoning there to go forward. The Tierney proposal is a much smaller area shown in red here on the map. The suggestion is to change that future land use designation, as Jim mentioned, to accommodate residential development on that piece. As a small mop up along for the ride, There's a stormwater basin. There's actually two serving this development, one to the south and one to the north. The north is already encompassed by a proposed environmental corridor designation. This plan amendment would redesignate the southern basin similarly. Plan Commission's a advisory body, but the advice comes in the form of a resolution after, if and when the commission adopts this resolution, the plan amendment would go to the village board.
Okay, so just to clarify, we are again making a recommendation to the village board.
Yeah, if you wanted to, you could make a recommendation, or you could make a motion adopting resolution 2025-907, which accomplishes that.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Commissioners, any questions, comments, concerns?
I'll make a motion adopting resolution 2025-907.
Thank you, Doug. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jean. Jean seconded. Any further discussion or comments? Sorry, I got two comments. I'm looking to see. I think that will be more appropriate for the next item. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 5.6, discussion and recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 3.4 acres on the west side of the parcel denoted on the agenda. From the B2 General Business District to a combination of C1 Conservancy and Plan Unit Development District, and to consider a PUD preliminary development plan and a preliminary plat for the Bolig addition to Yahara Gateway, all to facilitate a proposed single-family residential district development and an associated stormwater basin northwest of the intersection of Delmo Road and Tierney Crossing. Let me take a drink after that.
I'll just mention the preliminary development plan. We've had some back and forth with the applicant on. It was in your packet. It's an exhibit to the draft board ordinance that you might consider recommending. It lays out the ground rules for how this plan unit development would develop. As a sidelight, we're going to be bringing a proposal to the Plan Commission so that developments like this in the future can develop under standard zoning as opposed to plan unit development zoning. The reason this is a PUD is that not every lot has frontage on a public street. And because setbacks is a minor second point, that setbacks are a little bit narrower than what our densest single family district would allow. So that's why it's a plan unit development. They have to go through additional process, get beat up a little bit more than they would have otherwise for a relatively simple development proposal. I did want to say one other thing before being able to answer questions. The fire department had some comments. You probably saw those in your packet. Their concern was off of Tierney Crossing, which will eventually have quite a bit of traffic on it. They were concerned about having to pull a fire truck into Edward Court or Richard Court and then having to back onto that public street. The developers met with a assistant fire chief Wednesday or Thursday and worked out a plan that would basically allow that backing movement to occur outside of the travel way of Tierney Crossing. And I confirmed with the assistant chief that that is an acceptable solution. So you'll see detailed engineering plans coming forward with the final plat that will reflect that.
Thank you, Mark. Anything from the commissioners, questions, concerns? Okay, Mark, can you go back to, a resolution or recommendation?
So like the item that was just before this, the Holum property, this would be a recommendation to the board to rezone and approve a preliminary development plan for a planned unit development project. That would be accomplished by the village board adopting an ordinance like this one. So our recommendation is for the plan commission to recommend board approval of this ordinance. The ordinance does have conditions on the rezoning, basically tying the rezoning to them following through with the proposal. And then tweaking some items on the preliminary development plan, basically making sure it's internally consistent, I think is the theme here. And then within the final development plan that will come forward later on at a subsequent meeting, tackling comments of the fire chief, assistant fire chief, which have largely been tackled already, of the village engineer. Clarifying setbacks, they get a little bit confusing here because we have private courts plus a public street, and just making sure that we're clear on which setbacks are go to which. I think having a graphic would probably be the best way to accomplish that. And then final thing I'll mention specifically is a suggested approach for landscaping and or berming along Tierney Crossing frontages of the lots that that side on to Tierney Crossing to keep those lots attractive going forward. I'm confident that'll happen, but the comment is that the final development plan include a plan for that.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then this ordinance would do one more thing I failed to mention. It would also approve the preliminary plat. So by recommending this ordinance, you'd be recommending the rezoning to PUD, the PUD preliminary development plan, and the preliminary subdivision plat with the conditions that are listed in it.
Thank you. Anybody willing to make that motion?
All right, I'll make the motion that we recommend to the board. Is that right? Yes. To approve ordinance, whatever it is, approving a rezoning planned unit development, preliminary development plan, and preliminary plat for the bowling addition to Yahira Gateway, single-family residential development, northeast of Tierney Crossing and Delmore Road intersection.
Thank you, Colleen.
I'll
be sure to
second,
fix
Jim.
it. I'm sorry, I should be sure to fix it. It's the Bolig with no N. So I'll get rid of the N.
Thank you. So the motion was from Colleen, seconded by Shannon. Any discussion or comments? I got two quick things that I think is already more or less, or will be taken care of. Shannon, yeah, sorry. I guess I will note as a third thing is that I had a few different comments about easements that I'm sure will be looked at as far as we move forward to the final plat. Mark will share that with the engineer to consider and the development team. Nothing is a big deal.
Only comments Jim would love.
Yes. I'm saving you 10 minutes by not going through them. I know. The two things I do want to mention, and one of them is already more or less taken care of, talking about the landscaping along, I guess, lots 1, 6, 7, and 12. I appreciate that comment, and I just want to mention more or less to the development team, one concern that I have is if those individuals might want fences. What I would hope not to happen is a situation that we currently have on River Road into Forest where it's multiple types of fences as you go. So I'd maybe wish for you to consider to have a unified fence, or at least maybe a covenants that only allows a specific type of fence. So it'd be uniformity as you drive the Tierney Crossing. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. I am pretty confident will be taken in the final development plan. And the last comment that I'll make was depicted a lot by that graphic that you brought up, Mark, that showed the fire equipment. I like how the, say, throat of the driveway is wider. And I would also request you to consider the more or less have it say street level rather than pumping up over a bike path. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not looking to make that a requirement, but something to consider you guys to work through with staff. So those are my two comments. So anybody else, comments, questions? Seeing none, we still have the resolution in front of us and the recommendation for approval. So seeing no comments, all those in favor of the recommendation or motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Item number 5.7. Public hearing on a request to rezone the western approximately 1.7 acres of parcel denoted on the agenda, the Bueller Farm Plat, Lot 35, from RM4 Residential Mix Multifamily Housing District to the RM6 Residential Mix Traditional Housing District to facilitate single-family residential home sites west of Northtown Road and north of Stack Drive. Opening that public hearing at 7:07. Is there anybody wishing to speak? Is anybody doing a bit of an opening, or you can do it under the item too, so.
I'll just mention this is a hearing because the zoning of this lot is currently RM4, the entirety of lot 35 of this plat. Part of it, the western quarter to a fifth would be rezoned to RM6, which is a single family district. The developer now wishes to develop that side of what will be Scarlet Way with single family homes. That reflects the single family homes that are already platted and zoned on the other side of Scarlet Way.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Thank you, Mike. And Rachel or Brandy, can you look and see if anybody raises their hand for the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:08. We'll move on to 5.8, discussion and recommendation on a request to rezone the western approximately 1.7 acres of a parcel denoted on the agenda, Bueller Farm Plat, Lot 35, from the RM4 Residential Mix Multifamily Housing District to RM6 Residential Mix Traditional Housing District, and to consider a preliminary and final plats for the first edition of the Bueller Farm subdivision to facilitate single-family residential and zero lot line duplex and townhouse development west of Northtown Road and north of Stack Drive. Yes, Mark, do you want to kick it off and give my voice?
That would be great, Jim. Thank you. These are hard working ordinances tonight. They're doing a lot of different things. This lot, and you're also being challenged on geography, so you have to look to the left to see north. Northtown Road was built last fall, connecting Windsor Crossing and Windsor on the north end to the Northtown Corporate Park. On the south end, Bell Labs, it's all in the neighborhood here tonight, is located just to the south of this development. This area that's shown in combination of orange and yellow is and was platted a year and a half ago as Lot 35 of the Bueller Farm Plat. At that time, it was all zoned RM4, which is our standard multiple family zoning district. The parts you see in orange on the eastern, like I said, 3/4 or so would remain zoned RM4. There's no proposed zoning change there. The proposed zoning change in this ordinance would redesignate the area of 10 proposed lots from that multiple family district to a single family district called the RM6 district. The ordinance, in addition to approving that rezoning, would approve a preliminary and a final plat for this development. We felt it was reasonable to combine both preliminary and final plat because there are no new public roads other than those that have already been designed with the original plat. And the only new public utilities will be internal to the development, and those will be public sewer and water utilities that plans will be prepared for. So this ordinance would also approve the preliminary and final plats. If the board supports it after your recommendation, the plat is a little unusual, and I'll try to get it back. Let's see here. Oh, I know. Little game here. There it is. So reorient you again. North is now up where it should be. And this is the totality of lot 35. So you see the single family lots along Scarlet Way. And then these other lots correspond with proposed zero lot line development or developments, depending on how you look at it. And those will include on the north and south ends duplex units, which I can share with you in a second. So lots 47 to 77 would be duplex development, and lots 57 through whatever that is on the bottom would be duplexes as well. And then the central area would be sixplex development. But the idea is with this kind of lot pattern is that each housing unit would have its own lot, and each person, this is intended as an owner occupied development. Each owner would own their unit and would own their lot, their portion of the development, just as if they were buying a single family home, except they're sharing a wall with their neighbor. So it's called zero lot line development in our ordinance. It's a way to get into more affordable owner occupancy. That's not a condominium, but it's a fee simple kind of ownership scheme. There will be covenants and agreements to, you know, make sure that one of the owners can't paint their unit pink out on the outside when the other ones are, you know, tan or whatever they're going to be, to maintain the common walls, shared access easements to make sure that, you know, the owner of lot 53 has the unimpeded and perpetual right to get to the public street through the driveway. All that stuff is covered in either the ordinance directly or in the Veerbecker village engineer comments related to this ordinance that are tied to it. I'm happy to answer more questions. Oh, one final thing. You will be getting a detailed site plan submittal for the 2-family and 6-family developments probably at your May meeting. So while you have concept plans and the general layout here, you're not being asked to approve the site plan tonight. You are being asked to recommend the rezoning and the preliminary and the final plat. Thank you.
And Mark, before I open it up for everybody, can you clarify, I think you told me today that the proposal would be to show the easements for those, say, joint access or private road, whatever you want to call it, that is part of the conditions already?
Yes, it's one of the Veerbecker comments and conditions. So before the final plat gets recorded, what will be added to it will be like a dashed or a crosshatched area over the top of what will be a shared access and a public utility easement. Actually 3 of them serving each of the 3 pods of development. And there'll be a separate standalone easement document that describes the terms of that easement rights and responsibilities.
Thank you, Mark. I guess for my sake or everybody's sake, that is the way we're proposing it to get around the more or less, I don't know if it's a requirement in our ordinance as far as having road right away, but
It is,
That's how we're doing
it's
this.
written, yeah, it's written as a requirement unless otherwise approved by the village board. And then the ordinance does include a requirement for how or what conditions the village board can give that approval. And it basically says the village attorney has to approve a document just like I described.
thank you. Thank you for that proliferation. Or is there any questions, comments from commissioners? Go. Seeing none, we do have the resolution. I don't know if you can go back to the resolution.
Can I just make a comment, Jim?
Yep, go ahead.
As much as I personally enjoy listening to you all struggle through the resolution titles and Mark's ordinance titles, I did get confirmation that you don't have to say the whole thing.
I thought we just got told that we needed to. Thank you, Alex. So there is a recommendation for an ordinance in front of us. Is there anybody willing to make a motion? I guess I will make a motion. I'll make a motion to recommend the ordinance number 2025 dash whatever. An ordinance approving the rezoning, preliminary plat and final plat for the first addition to Bueller Farm Lot 35 mixed residential development. I'm going to leave it at that and not read the whole thing. Is there a second?
I'll second, Jim.
Thank you, Shannon. Additional discussion. Okay, I got a couple quick things again, and Mark, again, I'm going off of a conversation we had. We talked about a difference with a hammerhead. Is that appropriate to talk about now, or?
Sure. Let me bring up the plans. I think while we have everyone in the room, it would be worthwhile to bring it up. So I can start, Jim, by saying that the fire department has looked at these as preliminary plans. They're not concerned unnecessarily about backing onto Stack Drive or Virginia Drive with a fire truck, because these are local streets with less traffic volume than Tierney Crossing will have, or in this case, Northtown Road will have. They have the same concern with the access onto Northtown Road as I shared with you for the Tierney development. The solution here will be to fairly significantly expand this hammerhead at the what's the west end of these 6-unit buildings to allow a fire truck to turn around internal to the development.
Okay, thank you. One additional comment with that is I was noticing, I like that one is growing. I just wonder about the two other north-souths, if those should grow too, say that accommodates like a box truck or something else. Is Commissioner, does anybody else see that as an issue? I think right now it's probably more or less designed for a car or a large truck. Or pickup truck, I should say.
You're suggesting like if an Amazon delivery truck would ever go down there, that it could do a U-turn there, back, get out.
Correct. I'm just bringing that up as a concern. There's a potential they could use a driveway if there's a driveway available too, so. I'm not noticing any concerns, so
I mean, I would agree with that. I think, no FedEx trucks or anything that goes down there would need adequate room to turn around.
okay. I guess as we move forward, I guess I'll maybe look at staff, if that's something you can investigate, if there's an.
Yeah, we'll communicate that, and if Tim, I think Tim's still probably on the line. He's just heard it too.
Correct.
Okay, so if you could look into that as the
Yep.
project moves forward. And similar to the Tierney Crossing Road that we just talked about, I have a similar idea as far as along Northtown Road. I just want a unified look as far as landscaping, and if there is gonna be fences, I wanna make sure that they're, again, uniform. I think that's likely will be included as we move forward. You agree with that, Mark, or?
Yeah, you'll be getting a site plan submittal, and so as the applicants finalize the landscape plan, And, and as the attorney finalizes the declarations or whatever they're going to be for these developments, I think the general idea is that the appearance along Northtown Road be uniform and there not be a picket fence here and a solid fence here and a chain link fence here over time.
Exactly. And the last comment I wanted to bring up that I hope will happen naturally as we work on the access easement, I would also like a vision corner to be addressed at those three entrances or driveways. So can I maybe ask that as staff again to work with the developer on that?
Yes.
Okay. Those are my comments. Anybody else? Okay, so again, we have the resolution, a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Shannon, could you please let us know, did you vote aye or nay?
Aye, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you all. Item 5.9, discussion and action on a request for site plan approval from Bell Laboratories for an approximately 2,100 square foot industrial building addition and associated equipment and circulation area on a parcel denoted on the agenda, addressed as 6501 Northtown Road. I guess I look at Mark again. Do you want to kick it off, or
Sure.
development team, if you want to come
Yeah,
up?
I can
feel
see,
free.
I can see an army of teammates over there, so they're welcome to come up. I'll just quickly describe the proposal. I think it's about a 28,000 square foot addition, which sounds big, but when you compare it to the building it's being added to, it's quite small. It's on the south east end of their Bell Labs production warehouse facility. The street you see on the right is Northtown Road, just to the south of the Bueller Farm development. The addition is this rectangle located here. This addition is noteworthy, and that'll be primarily for storage, but a lot of the components related to that, the storage of the products, will involve outdoor equipment, both along the east and the south side of the development. The plan map I have up here is an enhanced landscape plan that the applicant submitted in part to respond to the village's screening requirements for outdoor equipment. The applicants also have fencing that you can see in outline form around the equipment in various locations that I'm tracing now on this plan map that will be 8 feet tall. So you'll have building wall, equipment, and then an 8 foot tall fence. And then, beyond that 8 foot tall fence along Northtown Road and to the south, a fairly dense bit of planting. The applicants also recently enhanced the building plan. Here we go. In a manner, is there a lot of stuff going on these plans, but in a manner that with the black or darker area, you can see that 8 foot tall fence. There's additional screening above the fence that the applicants might be in a better position to describe than I can, to help buffer some of this equipment that gets pretty tall. We don't have a requirement in the ordinance that says, if your stuff is 25 feet tall, you need a 25 foot fence. 8 foot is the max that we require, as long as there's also landscaping on the outside of that 8 foot fence. So with these revisions, it's my opinion that the plans meet the village ordinance screening requirements, which was the main thing that my review at least focused on.
Thank you, Mark.
There is a recommendation in your packet. It's part of the staff report that I will bring up momentarily. I don't know what page number it is in the packet, but it's towards the back.
Okay, I'm just noting, unlike most of the things that was in front of us tonight, this is our approval.
That's right.
We got the hammer tonight, I guess, so. So is there a motion? We have a recommendation in front of us and we can flip back to site plan if there's any comments on that. Go ahead, Gene.
So what will be stored in that area? Did I miss it somewhere?
I think they know better than me.
Yeah, please come forward to the mic so everybody online can hear you too, and please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Troy Reba. My address is 801 Richard Way in Wanakee. So this will be stored in there as a variety of different liquids and solids that'll be used in the manufacturing processes that we have at Bell. So it'll be a lot of the components will be edible oils such as peanut oil, soybean oil, and then some other solvents that we might have.
And I'm guessing the equipment outside, those are maybe refrigerating units and different things to keep temperatures right or humidity or whatever.
Yeah, the industrial equipment would be to help regulate that.
Okay. Thank you, Troy.
So
And you still have the floors or anything else?
I'm sorry, I was going to help in the response to that question. So the applicants did submit an emergency services and security plan, which also covers hazardous materials. And that plan was reviewed and accepted by the fire department.
Okay. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Gene. Any other commissioners? I guess if I could speak, one question that I had about the landscaping plan, and specifically if you could zoom in on the fencing, say in the, would it be the southeast corner of the fencing? I'm just trying to understand the plan is what is on the outside of the fencing. Is that proposed to be concrete or lawn? And if lawn, I'm wondering if we could maybe have some bushes or anything to help screen the fence even. I mean, just to make it more
Another
aesthetic.
question, what is the surface material being proposed, like where I'm panning right now? Concrete.
Okay. I guess never mind. Thank you, guys. Any other questions, comments? Or again, we have a recommendation from staff.
And if you wanted to, you could recommend approval of the site plan for you, subject to the conditions in the April 17th report of the village planner. You don't have to.
Thank you, Mark. I will accept that recommendation and recommend that the P and Z approve the site plan with the conditions noted and the April 17th, 2025 memo. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. Any further discussion, comments? All those in favor of the motion in front of you, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you all for coming and being patient as we got through the other items.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Item number 6, presentation and discussion. I don't think there's any. Item number 7, chair's report. I apologize. I did not take time to do that. I will note that your last meeting had a lot of different items that did go to village board and made it all through. So again, thank you guys for your work at the last meeting that I wasn't here but it was well worth it to get all those developments moved through. Staff report. Brandy, anything?
How are the beaches, Brandy?
The beach was fantastic. Thank you very much. I have nothing to update because I have no idea what's happened in the last week and a half.
It's all in email, 272 to 284.
Yep, lots of emails to check, but nothing that I'm aware of unless Alex has something to chime in on that happened.
No, just that likely in June, I think perhaps we'll be looking to do that annual comp plan update review. So if there's any suggestions associated with how you'd like to see that, let us know.
Okay, so send emails to you, Alex. Okay. Thank you. Brandy, site plan approvals,
No,
CSM approvals.
no,
You didn't do that last week?
I didn't do anything last week.
Development process and enforcement suggestions. Anything?
I've hinted at this, but at your next meeting, you will get a packet of residential zoning district amendments to try to accommodate developments like we saw tonight under standard zoning, and to implement the ideas that are in the housing strategy, implementation strategy that Alex shared with the Plan Commission in the fall. So we'll have a public hearing on that and ask for a recommendation at your May meeting.
Okay. Maybe I could tack on with that too, is I think everybody's aware, I've had a desire doing a traditional neighborhood. Okay. Because I noticed it was even mentioned in our readings today about not having that, so that's great. Thank you, Mark. Next meeting is May 27th, 2025. Item number 8. Did I hear Jean?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Jean.
Second.
Seconded by Doug. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Passes 5-0, just by the nick of time, Shannon. Thank you very much. We are adjourned at 7:33.
Thank you.